Alright, I think it's time. I will say this, Martha, if you're watching. In my last video, I didn't see your comments until it was done processing. And then when I went to refresh it, I can't see the comments. I don't know what that's about. Could be YouTube, could be me being an idiot. I did see your name, and I just saw some words after it. But that's it. I don't know what you said. I do apologize. I'll have to look back later. It could be a processing issue. Let's see. What do we got going on? I mean, we really don't need flee for the upcoming battle, but I don't know what else we need. It's fine. Turns out we don't need either of those treasures, so we're good. Let's go with Carbuncle. I know, I just checked all this 1 second. I should have had it memorized, first of all. You can imagine how many tabs I have open. It's a lot. I need to know what this dude's... where's this name? Is it Catastrophe? Catastrophe. Oh, I'm an idiot. Could be pronounced the way it was intended, which is catastrophe. For whatever reason, I just remembered it as catastrophe. Okay, alright. I was not wrong for that. There didn't used to be any. What kind of creature is it? It's just heavy. Okay. So let's go back. Well, that was fun. I thought that was going to be a lot worse than it was. Really? Also, I can adjust this now. Now I can see comments. When I had to reset my emulator the other day, it wouldn't let me resize it. I was just getting used to it being small sized on my screen, but it won't allow that anymore for some reason. Don't know why. So now I can see. The point really is not for them to gain a level. I'm just trying to get a krill. To mastery. Because I don't plan on fighting anything that I don't have to in the collective dimension. Very close, yeah. No Beastmaster skills. That's alright though. Every time I play through this, I learn to be a little more conservative with my spending. way my inventory is set up, this is not terribly imbalanced. Okay, so this boss could be a pain in the butt. I'm just trying to increase magic power. Alright, it's 9. Almost 10. 16. 20. 21. 26-ish, almost 27. 32. Say 38, 39. Oh, 45. Will this do it? Will this do it? It's got 50,000 life. Cool. don't normally save so much, but I have learned my bazillion times playing through this game that your next save point requires a boss fight. That we may or may not struggle with. Alright, so this is no longer just about magic. I think we can leave them like that. I thought I was going to have to release that. So I may end up releasing that. On the boss at the save point. I want to say it's Necrophile, is the name of the boss. Yeah, there's a bunch of attack stars in here. For no good reason. Yeah, there's a gap musically, I think, in Final Fantasy VI. Like, tracks like this remind me of some songs from Final Fantasy VII in a way that doesn't quite fit in 6. He'll be back. One of these should be an elixir. Yeah. Yeah, I changed my mind. We're not going to try to do Shinryu. That's that treasure chest right there. Now, we could just go straight to X-Death. Without getting to the save point. If we were to roll the dice. Oh, necrophobe. He's afraid of death? I thought he was necrophile. That's okay. Yo. Gilgamesh should be showing up soon. I believe the last time I played this, I told myself that it wasn't necessary to have. I mean, we were clearly on our way to fighting Necrophobe on our own, no problem. But once you trigger his help, you can't turn it away. Ooh. Okay, so that's where we lose Sid. Got it. I thought it was earlier in the game. I should have just busted in with 4 summers. This battle would be over by now. Oh, you can reverse delta tag. I didn't know that. Are you serious? Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I didn't know that cat's exit. Okay, so this battle must be just about over. Wow. What? 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 What just happened? Well, I learned some things in this run. I learned a lot of things, actually. First of all, summoners are broken, especially if you have access to Sildra and the Air Knife. Absolutely torn up broken. I want to say the rest of this is automated. Yeah. So, if I just come in there with 4 summoners, I probably could have swept that in like a handful of minutes. But I insisted on trying out the Beastmaster and the Dancer as a viable choice. But I don't know. I mean, I did pull off a Swords Dance for max damage. That was cool. But it had a 50-ish% chance of working. So that was kind of a gamble. I'm glad that I gave him the summon ability. We didn't really get to burn through the elixirs like I thought we would. So we did certainly use a lot of them in that battle. Beastmasters are cool in a limited sense. Like if you knew what you were capturing and then releasing, that would be cool. Like to really manipulate it to your advantage. And the whip has its purpose. It's better than like back row thief weapons. Once we graduated from thief, we rarely ever went back. Sometimes we would just have one. They've got great speed and great like support abilities, but being an actual thief is kind of a pain. In terms of its damage output, stealing has its merits, but pairing up Beastmaster with Summon was an interesting combination. Again, I keep getting Dancer every time I do these runs, which is fine. I'm learning a little more about them every time. I didn't realize that you could just go to the Phoenix Tower and just easily soak up some of these final armors. Like you saw the armors that I skipped in the castle version of the Void, or the Cleft of the Dimension, whichever. Because I already had several of them, I didn't need any more. The ribbons were nice, but we really didn't get to see them shine because we managed to reflect Almagest. I didn't realize, was that what that was? Whatever the movie was. Maybe it was Tri-Attack. I didn't think you could reverse that or reflect it. So that was another added bonus. Having reflect and Golem up at almost every boss fight, especially the last one. So having multiple summoners was quite helpful. Or people with the summon ability, I should say. But Dancer, I want to like Dancer more as a class. And maybe that's just like trauma bonding, like I'm getting so used to playing with them. I'm looking for reasons to like them more. I feel like this time around, because everyone had access to ribbons, basically, that it kind of shined near the end with all the ribbons that I got. That part was interesting. Again, I've never played by these rules before, where you get to basically only pick between the jobs that you have unlocked, just those 4, and nothing else. Normally, I play locked in, so whatever class you get is what you get for the rest of the game. But that you don't have to, like, once you get to the first crystal, whatever that character is that's associated with that crystal gets that class, and then when you go to the next crystal, they get that class. So everyone's a freelancer up until that point. But I'd never played it where you have to play just as, like, if you unlock one class, there are no more freelancers. You all have to be that class. Never played it quite like that. That would have been rather disturbing had we gotten, like, a white mage. I think fighting the first couple of dungeons would have been really annoying. Just beating up with stabs, you know. The fight with Medusa would have been special. I still overstocked on a lot of stuff. I think there's a part of me that is so used to not being able to share abilities amongst different classes, even though I've been playing the whole game like that. The idea that I could go into the final boss with nothing but summoners means that I did not need nearly as many rods as I normally do to succeed. And usually, like, if I play through on classic mode, that means that you can only pick classes that come from Final Fantasy, the original. And those classes are usually divvied out. And so I've played it before where you have, like, 2 red mages, a black mage, and a white mage. It's like, well, for the red mages to be that helpful in the last fight, they need to be breaking rods, not casting level 2 magic twice. That's a waste of time and MP. Now, dual cast on red mages is cool because you can cast. I think you can cast life, and that could be a level 4 spell. But you can double up on some things. You can switch it up. Like, you can heal one of your party members and attack, do a little bit of damage with another spell kind of thing. Like, that's cool. But that's if you're playing with classic rules, you can never get past red mage. And that means you can never get past level 3 magic. And I don't mean like fire 3, I mean like the way it's set out in the game. Which I think maxes out at what we would call level 2 magic, so like fire 2 and cure 2. So it's one of the, like, their only points of usefulness is to be able to dual cast. Like, that would be wild if you're playing this version, and you got, let's say, black mage or white mage as well as red mage, I'm supposed to take a screenshot at some point. I was over here just talking, staring into the universe. Yeah, that would be, with the way this is set up, that would have been pretty broken, because then ultimately you can like dual cast flare at the end, things like that. This certainly was not difficult. There were a couple times, obviously, where I had to manipulate things, but aside from that, this is not. This run was made more difficult by me stubbornly being me, more than anything else. Also, again, my goal was to finish playing this game by the end of the month, and I kind of dove in. I pushed a little hard because it's the 26th. I really thought I would be playing like 2 hours a day for, you know, a week or two, a week and a half, something like that. But I had some other priorities. Slide on back, I guess. But I really think it was because everyone could get the summon ability. If it had just been one summoner and that was it, it would have been okay, but it would not have been nearly as easy. Like if I had a character that was stuck as Beastmaster without the ability to summon or anything. And the same with Dancer. I'm just used to them being kind of useless kinds of fighters, but being able to give them the summon ability as secondary, that was pretty delicious. I could really, if I redid this run, I don't know how many hours it is, less than 24 hours of playtime, if I recall correctly. We'll save right here at the end, we'll see. But I wonder if I did the exact same run with the same rules, I could probably do it in 20 hours. Easily, just reorienting my priorities, focusing more on Summoner, Dancer, less on Beastmaster. Get a little more tactical with my steals. I don't know what I would do if flowers started growing up underneath me. I would not be standing still. This is some Captain Planet moment. With our powers combined. Well, I'm thinking about it. I do appreciate y'all watching. I'll say it at the end, sure, but especially Martha for commenting. I'm sorry I missed you yesterday. I don't know what that was about. Aside from the fact that I just wasn't looking at that part of the screen. It's probably not been the most exciting run through Final Fantasy V I've done, but now I think I understand why so many people are likely to use these rules, though. It's definitely, I don't want to say it's an easy mode, but it does make things a lot easier. But yeah, if you made it all the way through, even more thanks to you. I'm working on, in my mind, a different way of setting up these streams so that I can pay more attention to the chat and see what's going on there. Because I hate that people are possibly messaging me and I'm not seeing it. These end credits are so curious. Like they clearly had the graphics capacity to do better and differently throughout the game, and they just didn't. Obviously, it would have taken a lot of resources. It just makes me wonder how much time they spent on this. See, like this angle on them is pretty cool. It makes me wonder, like, how possible it would be to have a whole game like that with those kinds of graphics. It's not a bad way to start the day. I literally rolled out of bed, had some coffee, grabbed a snack, and then jumped right into this. My shift starts in a couple hours. So, it's just a curious thing to think about. I'm sure like years down the road, I'm like, oh yeah, remember that day I just got up, beat a video game, and I went to work. That's some real adulting right there. I forgot how long these credits were. There we go. The front mission gun hazard sound. He doesn't use those bins almost anywhere else in this game, but in the credits. But they're used all the time in Front Mission Gun Hazard. See, some Final Fantasy VII vibes, and the way it's orchestrated. And then we jump right back to Final Fantasy V. So it's doing in the strings what he was just doing in the brass. Oh, I got thanked. How did they know that's my favorite? Final Fantasy 6. I could tell he was experimenting. He's like in a transition phase. Some of the tracks from this game sound like they're like from Final Fantasy 3, from the Nintendo, or Final Fantasy 4, and then some they seem to reach into the future. While at the same time it has almost this unique sound across the other Final Fantasies. Like this part right here, Final Fantasy 6. The way this is arranged, like you would never have heard something like that in Final Fantasy 4. Not quite. I don't even know what that spell was. It looks familiar. I'm sure we used it at some point. I bet you that was loud. I apologize if you could hear that. Because it was loud in my ears. Just taking that screenshot of Putts. Looking fancy. Hold on, no. There we go. I'm sorry. I hit the wrong thing. So we could theoretically do the bonus dungeon. I don't really have a strong desire for it. I don't know why they would open up a bunch of classes that you can't really use in the final dungeon. Like the only thing you can really use them in is in the bonus dungeon, or to do things that you didn't do. Like if you're like, oh, let's say we were playing with restrictions on the job classes. I guess that would make sense if you just wanted to explore new things. I don't know. $22. Okay, 23. So there's that. Um, Again, I appreciate you making it this far. If this really doesn't have a fundraising goal, I suppose you could go play Putt-Putt. I've never played it. It's very unusual the way that was laid out. What is this? Putt-Putt enters the race is the name of the game. The link um, to the 4-job Fiesta page is in my description. So there's no charitable donation this time. I'm not really sure why that's the case, but I may, I guess, on my own decide to make some kind of contribution somewhere. I don't know. Where would you donate your money if nobody told you where to donate it? They just gave you like $20 and said, hey, put this on somebody else's account. You know, who would you give it to? I think that's an interesting question. Like if we all got $20, like I live in the United States, so if everybody in the United States got $20, but they weren't allowed to spend it on themselves and they weren't allowed to spend it on stuff, they had to give it to some charitable organization. I wonder where that money would go. Exactly. I mean, you'd have some people that would like give the money to the U.S. Treasury because they consider the government a form of charity, which is technically true, um, but as far as like non-profits, not necessarily an exclusion on religious contributions, but keeping the options open. Where would you give your money? That's not your money. Where would you give the $20? Or what organization? What would be your highest priority? Like I know now a lot of people might give to some Ukraine relief related organization because that's topical now. Um, I think with some of the recent revelations about the Black Lives Matter organization and how money that was supposed to be used for organizing was used to purchase really expensive homes um, for the owner, potentially, I suppose, their friends, family, whatever, whoever they're connected with. That is a curious, um, I don't know, it adds some curious cynicism where you just don't trust. There was something about the Black Lives Matter organization and mission that was supposed to be like bulletproof, if you'll pardon the pun. Uh, like it was supposed to, like, how could you not support this? You know? So people would give money to it, and now they're realizing that money was not used the way it was intended. So I guess two things with that, not just where would you give your money, but how would you make sure, or how would you rest comfortably knowing that those funds are going to be used for something you support? You know what I mean? And I wonder where people get educated on that, or if they don't, whether it's in school or by friends and family and that sort of thing. Like, how do you develop a good intuition about, oh, this is a good investment for my money? Because it's a little different than you going to the store and recognizing, okay, this is or is not good for me or my family or my friends or whoever I'm buying it for. It's like a consumer good. But when it comes to charity, uh, where do we get a good sense of this is good for the world. This is good for the people I care about that maybe aren't personally connected to me. It's a different kind of conversation, and I feel like maybe in a subtle way you get a lot of like media influence on that. You get some in the way that certain topics are taught in school, but it's not necessarily like a political thing. It's just like the way that we think about supporting entities that are not directly related to us. Um, like with COVID and masking, for instance, that getting the getting the vaccine was really more for the individual than it was for the general population, because it wouldn't necessarily stop you from getting it and spreading it. You just wouldn't be as badly affected, though it does have a positive impact on like hospital utilization, frees up space for other true emergencies. Um, but generally speaking, the vaccine was more for you than it was for anybody else. However, masking was supposed to be for other people, and you'll see this like divide between people that were vaccinated and not vaccinated, people that wear masks and don't wear masks. There are people that got vaccinated and decided they didn't need to wear masks anymore because they're fine. And that's not exactly how that disease works. And again, it's not to make a case for either A, masking, or B, getting vaccinated. Just with COVID, it's a bit different. The question then becomes, though, is this about me or is it about other people? And again, you setting aside government requirements for this, that, or the other thing, government coercion into vaccination or wearing masks or any other, you know, supposedly preventive measure against either contracting or transmitting the disease. I think the bottom line there is it's incoherent the way they talk about kids being vaccinated. Kids are the least likely to get seriously infected and potentially have die or have long-term consequences from having contracted COVID. And so people will make a very concentrated argument and say, well, kids don't need to be masked. They don't need to be vaccinated um, because they're very low risk. And that's true. But the kids don't live in an orphanage. They live at home, with their parents, their grandparents, whatever. Especially the grandparents part, it's conceivably possible that the kid could get it and be pretty much just fine. It seems like a cold to them, but if their parents or grandparents catch it, they could possibly get seriously ill or pass away from it. Anyway, I say all that because the public discussion about what is for me and my personal good and what's good for my friends and family, what's good for the world in general, right? As you expand outwards, it seems like the mode of thinking about where I spend my time, where I spend my energy, where I spend my dollars is different. Like as you expand out from yourself um, out to the greater world, there seems to be a shift in understanding and perspective, even to the point of, as I just explained, about why kids could conceivably be required to wear masks or be vaccinated, where that logic comes from, is never really articulated in the public discourse. It's just a matter of, okay, it's for everyone's safety. They need to go ahead and get vaccinated. They need to wear their mask. As if they are a threat to themselves or their peers. Um, and it's curious to me why we don't just stop for 2 seconds and go, well, there might be a good argument for it if you decided to open your mouth and make it, but all you want to do apparently is just repeat stupid. I had a mentor tell me once, don't repeat stupid. Um, and like what follow up to that is, don't let stupid make you stupid. Anyway, um, I don't know when I make a video like this. I don't know how many people will listen all the way through the end of this little rant slash sermonette. I don't know how many people are seeing this, but I do think that it is curious if you were to propose a $20 gift to everyone in the United States, but they can't spend it on themselves or their friends and family. They have to give it to an organization that helps people that can't help themselves. Who do you give it to? I don't know what the thought process would be for a lot of these people. Some Christians might go, "Oh, well, I'm going to give it to my local church," which is not a terrible response. Um, and anyone associated with a religious organization might do the same. But that church might be associated with various other projects, and they may have a particular interest in one of them. Or if they didn't know what to do with the money, right? It's one of those things. Even from as a religious matter, let's say they prayed about it and they still didn't get a clear answer on what to do with the $20. They could reach out to a leader at their local religious institution and get guidance on that. Um, is there an equivalent of that for the secular world, right? Outside of religious institutions, where do you find mentors like that? Is it you're going to find a lot of resources on the internet, right? Um, YouTube, Googling it. I'm sure you could Google top 20 charities to give to or something, you know, and you'll get some good results. But it's not clear where that guidance is coming from and what is really the clearinghouse on that. Who is saying that this is a good idea or a bad idea to make these suggestions? And is it something like, lessons hard learned, like we did with Black Lives Matter and that organization, where we understood that it should have been a no-brainer to be able to support the organization, but in retrospect, it was a terrible idea to give money to that organization because it was run by a particular person with bad intentions, or maybe they had good intentions and they just got warped over time. I don't know, but like where do we get that guidance from? How do we know what is a good use of those time and resources? Anyway, that's your adulting rant of the day. If you made it this far, you can put a comment in the comment section. If you got a favorite charity or organization that you would give to, number one. Number two, where would you go? What would you do? Who would you ask if you did not know the best way to invest that for the outer world? I mean, that could be a personal question that you don't feel like giving explicit answers to, but maybe their title, relationship, something like that. If you said like, your uncle or your priest or, one of your colleagues at work or something like this, like where would you go if you thought experiment, you absolutely had to give this $20 somewhere and you were stumped as to what the right way forward was? Who would you talk to? Don't talk to me. Oh, Lord, Martha. You show up for the post game rant. Hold on one second. Let me catch up. I was literally here just staring at the ceiling, just having a whole moment. As it turns out, my mother also has lupus. She was diagnosed at 16 and is still alive. She's obviously got a number of health conditions now that are some are dependent, some are independent. from that. But right, and there's always been a bit of a concern that because I've had some weird health issues since I was like in my early 20s, and there's always some concern that maybe that's what it was. As it turns out, I have yes, that would be funny if I was talking to someone that had passed on. Um, but it turns out I have Graves' disease, which is interesting. I wonder if there's something like well on in the background, like a common denominator for thyroid dysfunction as well as lupus, or if it's just a coincidence that I also ended up with an autoimmune disease. Yeah, apparently it is way more common than you would think, but the research on it is not it's not abundant because it's usually thought to be simple, like you either have it and it's controlled or you keep having a bunch of episodes and they kill your thyroid and then you just take synthetic thyroid for the rest of your life and nobody really thinks twice about it. Yeah, I mean it has a lot of secondary effects because it's an autoimmune disorder that negatively impacts the thyroid function by causing it to be hyperactive. Um, but it has I mean, aside from the cardiovascular and sometimes mood related issues that can come from having um, high thyroid levels, the disease itself ends up affecting your eyes more than anything else. You know, for some, it causes the eyes to bulge out a bit, but it can damage your sort of what do you call that? Your optical system. It's like not just like one part of it. So like having some vision issues or issues with your eyes, those connective tissues or the nerves connecting, those can get damaged over time. Well, usually, well, I will say this, um, because the medication they put you on, they'll suppress your thyroid function, and for me, that medication works very well and very quickly. And so I have had an experience in the past where my thyroid levels dipped too low because of the treatment. And I remember for months after that, um, I could not, to save my life, gain muscle mass. I couldn't lose any weight. I seemed to just be taken on, even though I was eating less and all this. And I have heard people that have low thyroid issues, like if they have Hashimoto's disease or something like this, they will complain about how they can never lose any weight even if they don't eat. And I always just thought they were being dramatic, but there's something real to that. But I mean, having a healthy range is fine. Some people have a little bit of lower thyroid, some higher. It's not a huge issue. Um, but if it gets to the point of extremity, because if you just start taking on weight or you start losing weight in unexpected ways, that would be a concern. Oh, and to process that you're watching this at work. I don't know if you caught this part. Oh no, that that I'm sure that's the highlight of your day. Um, my shift doesn't start until 2 p.m. So I literally rolled out of bed, beat X death. That's you know that's how adults do. Outreach. Thank you. I'm not sure I follow the how, how you making and distributing that is an outreach effort. Oh, okay, okay, okay. What types of events would you go to where that would be a welcomed like presence or gesture? I could see people taking that kind of strangely. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying it would be weird in a lot of contexts. Oh, okay, okay. So, are there other organizations that you work with, maybe directly or indirectly, or are you kind of like a satellite to some of these other events and things? Or stated differently, maybe are there other partner organizations that maybe are not doing what y'all are doing, but there's like a synergy between what you're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to accomplish? Or is your organization just really a niche thing? No problem. Did you want me to repeat my question? So is that fully independent, or do you work with either like county, state, or other insurance companies? And I imagine that requires quite a bit of grant writing. Oh, are you fully funded by the state then? Oh, okay, okay. Well, that's a good thing. I've seen some profiles of active um, psychologists, and it's interesting to see um, what their priorities were, both in terms when they were in school, but as well as where they made the use of their time before and during them being a counselor and how they integrated that together. So I can see an experience like this tying into that very well. Would the alternative to that be something of an intervention specialist? Okay. Well, it's good talking to you. For anyone that was lost and confused, in the middle of my rant, Martha popped in the chat. So I was having this whole, what seems to most people as a one way conversation, but if you saw the chat, it makes a little more sense. Nevertheless, um, she's at work and I'm about to go to work. So, again, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. I hope you're well. I look forward to the next one, which may or may not be that Pokemon challenge I've been thinking about. Still not 100% on how I'm going to execute that or when I'm going to play it, but oh, you're back now. I was tying a little bow on it, Martha. Um, I mean, I can stick around. I thought you were gone. Oh, the question I was asking you was, so is the alternative to being a prevention specialist an interventionist of some kind, where they're already dealing with complicated cases? Okay. And do they have some kind of like supportive licensing program, or do they expect you to do that independently, either while you're still working there or leave and come back, kind of thing? Okay. I think you answered my question. Yeah, I realize that that's something that's dangerous, like all the time, regardless of what condition you have. But working with that particular population, that could be, to me, I don't know, stressful. Maybe is the word. Like in other words, if you were to mess that up with that particular clientele, you could be sitting on the other side of the counter. That's not something you normally see in most like customer service type operations, where if you mess it up, then you could also be in the same situation that the person you're trying to help is in. It's just it's a different mentality for me. Oh, I'm sure. I would be taking I'd be taking blood in a hazmat suit. Like no 0% chance of this happening. But I'm just extra like that. I can't. But then again, I'm sure there's a bit of like deconstruction on y'all's part because you work with them, you understand the risks and the dangers, and it's like it's destigmatized to a certain degree. On the other side of it, you're trying to bring them in to meet in the middle. Oh, that's interesting. You have a testing room. What is it, like a PCR test? Where where you just take a little bit of blood out of their finger and treat it like you would a COVID type test, or yeah, and I recognize that. To be honest, it's kind of like liquid mercury. You can play with it in your fingers, um, but if it doesn't actually get inside your body, it's not really doing you any harm. But it's the principle of the matter. I wouldn't want mercury anywhere near me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I would deal with that either. One of the things that I've had to kind of coach myself on over the past couple of years, because I've been in an assistant supervisor role basically for most of my work experience, and only like 2 years ago that I actually officially become a supervisor. And I had I still have trouble telling people when they're getting fired, especially when I know their situation. Like I know they're leaning on this job to protect themselves and their family, and it's just they got a lot going on, or they really thought they were doing good at this, but they really weren't, or something serious came up and we can't make an exception, et cetera, et cetera. It's just um, it's rough because you it's the last thing you want to tell them is that they don't have a job. Um, but I also have to remind myself if I can hire somebody, I can fire somebody. And that's the part that you kind of have to accept, I think, sometimes, even when the stakes are high. When you're doing these tests, of course you want them to be good results. You know what I mean? Who doesn't want them to be good results? But that's the point of running the test. You can't you can't celebrate positive. Well, I say positive. You know what I meant. They're good results. Whatever. Um, you can't celebrate the good results without having to really embrace the bad results. Yeah, I get that. And the other thing too, oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. Right. I mean, okay. And again, it's going to sound like apples and oranges, but it's very much related to it. When, and I have to coach my agents on this all the time because I work overnight shift usually. I work second and third shift. And a lot of the time, if someone calls in and their account is handled by another department, that department is closed. And my agents say, well, what are we supposed to do when they're mad? And they just, they don't, they just want to be transferred, but we can't transfer them or whatever. One of the things I tell them is that when you answer the call and you say, how can I, what can I do to assist you today? And you tell them the account is closed right now to call back later, they get upset. How am I supposed to, because they're thinking not just like how do I get this person off my phone gently, they're thinking for themselves because they really wanted to help them but they can't help them. I have to help them repackage that and say you help them the best you could possibly do, even if it's giving them information they don't like. It's better than lying to them and telling them they're open when they're not, or just transferring them over and letting them figure it out. You know what I mean? Like that's rude and disrespectful. The best possible thing you can do in that circumstance is to give them the truth. That's the best thing you can do. And by doing that, you are fulfilling what you said that you were going to help them tonight. Yes, you did help them. They may not embrace that as help. You may not think you helped them, in your heart, but you did the best that you could do and gave them a platform for moving forward. So that's the same kind of idea. Obviously, again, apples and oranges in terms of severity, but it's the same principle. So you're right. I mean, making sure that they understand what their options are. and letting them know that they're being supported. It doesn't mean you have to bury your feelings on the matter. It's just that knowing that you're doing the best you can for them in this situation. That makes me wonder about some of these COVID clinics, especially like through pharmacies and stuff like that, where they do this testing and they provide them with the results. I really wonder about the psychological health of the nurses and techs that are involved in the COVID testing market. I had never really put much thought to it before this conversation, but I could see that really messing with people. Like, how long do you think you could work as a COVID tester before your mental health started to be degraded? Well, that's a mess. Yeah, I mean, where I work, we have um, we have internal ways of tracking, but I don't follow up with my employees except for ever so often because it's it's a weird spot to be in. Like, you want, as a part of management, you want to make sure that your agents are well, but at the same time, you kind of want to leave them alone and let them just heal without being bothered. Yeah, so as far as I think contact tracing is going to be county and state specific. It's not. I don't know what kind of federal mandates there are. Like I said, most of what we do is internal as a company. I don't know what they do. I should ask, actually. Appreciate you bringing that up. I have to ask one of my recently um, diagnosed people if anyone ever reached out to her from the county or state or anything. But I think too that with contact. Okay. Thank you. Oh, oh dear. I got an email about one of my employees. Um, like redoing or just auditing. To be honest, I'm not sure. Uh, my Final Fantasy Legends 3 runs, like all 12 of them, were educational, and I've started to. Oh, um, like it was failing like in different ways all the times. I liked having the four different classes idea. That was cool in theory, except for cyborgs almost universally suck. Um, and beasts were confusing me because they change every time you gain a level. And so there was a complexity to like knowing what level you are and knowing what element of whatever creature it is that you are before you consume or don't consume parts or meat. Like there's this whole like I felt like I was doing like in-depth astrology every time I was upgrading. And I'm sure that if I played the game more and more and more, I would get it. It would click. And the game is only like 8 hours long anyway. But just like with Final Fantasy V, you can tell that I've played that game over a span of many, like now decades. Oh, so old. Anyway, I've played it enough that it's it's like it's part of who I am. Final Fantasy Legends 3 is not quite there, but I know enough from playing Final Fantasy Mystic Quest a lot, and I've beaten Final Fantasy Legends 3 a couple times before, so it's not like I don't have experience with it, but I've avoided the monster management system and robots and all that stuff. They always seem too complicated or unnecessary. If you just stay human and mutant and just run your way through the game, is no problem. And so that's what I've always done. And so what I found myself doing was learning as I went, and some of it was just like really challenging learning opportunities. Um, Lots of reversing, lots and lots of reversing, just to get results or to undo some of the results that I got. Um, so I may spend some more time playing that kind of casually, just so I can get on the same page. There's a part of me that wants to do robot, monster, monster. That I has like an obvious challenge going into it. You know what I mean? Like, cause you can only cast magic from two different people. The robots can use weapons to cast magic, but the strength isn't going to be there because their magic ability is garbage. Um, yeah, I see what you're saying now about the audit too. You can't that it drives me nuts when I get an agent from another team and I have no background information on them. I'm like, were you a good employee? Did you come on time? Did you get good surveys? Did you get good audits? Like I have no idea. Who are you? Um, Look, I've played some of Final Fantasy Legends 2. I will say this. I um I'm honestly more a musician than I am a gamer. Like I got into RPGs when I was younger, but it was partly because of the music in the RPGs that I got into music, and it became like the secondary thing. And so I spent a good portion of my youth making like MIDI recreations of various tracks from games. So like I'm more familiar with the music from these games than I am the games themselves. Even though I've played some of them for a little bit, I feel like the original Legends was the difficulty level was unnecessary. Um, like I've seen people play it all the way through, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't invest my time into that. Playing it for an hour at a time and then putting it down is fine, and then you just never play it again. But the original Legends just seemed unnecessarily difficult. But I think they were experimenting with the diversity of character forms, some of which were absolute garbage. Right, right. So, but here's the thing: I know the music from these games. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I remember, what was it? Final Fantasy Adventure is interesting. It's got a completely different setup. It should have it's the same composer as Legends 2 and 3 should be Kenji Ito. That's why it's got it has a very different feel than Secret of Mana and Secret of Mana 2, even though they're part of the same series. And part of it has to do with the music. Yeah, well, unfortunately, they called, Seiken Densetsu 2, they called it Secret of Mana. So I don't know what they would have called the original. It's like Seiken Densetsu point 5. Like, how are you going to go in reverse? I don't know. But I enjoyed that, or I told myself that I enjoyed that game. Though I'm pretty sure I was using a guide with it. Uh, it's a curious bit of like fetch questing to get to certain places. It helps to have some kind of guide available. But my point of mentioning that about Legends 3 is I don't know if I'm going to go back to that anytime soon. Um, when I tell you I've had 12 failed runs for various reasons, including like streaming nothing to not thinking I'm streaming but not really, having to start over. Like it was just there was a whole lot going on. Okay. Yeah, I know some things about annoying coworkers. I had one mess up my life the other day. We use Teams, like Microsoft Teams, and because my sleep schedule is upside down, I set my status to do not disturb during the day, so that I don't get buzz notifications on my phone unless it's from my boss. She's on an exception list. That's not the point. Um, I had an I had a coworker 3 different times over the course of like 3 hours. She sent out an urgent message to one of our group chats, which it breaks through do not disturb and it goes off every 2 minutes for up to 20 minutes. like until you acknowledge it. And I barely slept. I don't think I got 2.5 hours of sleep that whole morning, and not because I had something important going on, not because I was taking care of a sick child or anything else that you might think is noble or justifiable. It was because this other agent, this other supervisor, kept waking me up by sending these messages that had nothing to do with anything. I think, what's funny? I think I was about to go on a rant about that when you came into my chat the other day. You stopped me because I was about to be like super negative. And you started talking. I said, "Oh, look, it's Martha. Okay, well, change the subject." But yeah, I get the annoying coworkers thing sometimes. Nah, she was just being too much. She was being extra. I didn't even address her. I spoke to my manager. I was like, look, I'm not even mad at her. I just think there's some ignorance about how this process works. So I had to explain to my own manager what the difference between normal, important, and urgent messages. So we got on the same page eventually. Again, at the end of the day, I wasn't mad at the supervisor. I was mad at just like the whole circumstance. Like, how do we allow that kind of ignorance to pervade the workplace? We're all work at home supervisors, and I sleep during the day. What do you think is so urgent about your message that it would be worth waking me up for? If it's not that serious, don't use urgent. But I don't know if you caught any of this from any of the previous segments in this Final Fantasy V run, but I had a curious challenge kind of pop to mind, even though it's not really so much a challenge because if you can beat the game with the first 3 routes worth of Pokemon, um, then you can do pretty much anything with a combination of that. But I thought it would be amusing to do a playthrough, and this actually it would work at least in the first 3 gens. I've never played any of the fourth and up gens, but you should be able to beat the game with just flying type Pokemon and bug type Pokemon. And I know you're thinking to yourself, why would you pick just flying and bug? I don't know. I thought it was kind of cute to call the birds and the bees challenge because I'm an idiot. Um, I think it's doable. It would actually just require me to focus on things that I can control a little more. Um, but with everything being flying or bug, it would just be a complete disaster when you're fighting like electric type Pokemon, for instance. Like it's nothing to protect. And the other thing too is there's nothing in that grouping in Gen 1 that can learn Surf except for Gyarados. So there's that. And that thing is it's broken, right? Um, but that's fine. Theoretically, I could use Charmander as my starter because it does become flying later on and that sort of thing. So it's this concept of you can only use flying types and you can only use bug types to move through. I've never played with a Scyther or a Pinsir before, but I did a lookup on them and they don't have any bug type moves. They're all normal type moves, and they're not normal types, so there's no stab. Like, it's one of the things, like, I don't know if it's even worth trying to get some of these bug types, because they appear to be garbage at a certain. I know they're good, but compared to what you already have in your party, I don't know. So I don't know. I did some research on that. That seems like it would be interesting. I think that going through Gen 1 would be okay. It's doable. It would just be kind of an. It just be curious the way that you approach things. Um, I think doing it in doing it in the Gen 3 remake would be curious, because it takes a lot of emphasis off of the water types, and you, if you don't have that Mankey, you're really going to be struggling. Um, so I think that would be, I think the remake would actually be more difficult than the original. Yeah, but here's the thing about, like, Emerald, right? Because the birds that you get early on are flying water type, so you actually have early access to the water HMs. Um, and the bugs are, to me, I feel like they have an edge over the Gen 1 types. Um, Especially because they have stronger healing type moves. Anyway, like, there's just a little bit of move diversity there, that I can appreciate, and there are, I think, a couple other bug types that are early on in the game. They're not the worst. They're certainly better than some of what you get out of Gen 1. Um, but there's not a lot to work with in the early game. You have a Wingle, and you have like, what, the three different bug types you encounter in maybe the first, like, four areas. Um, there's one more. I think, if it depends on whether or not I'm playing, like, Emerald or playing Ruby or something like that. Whether but it's like a 1% encounter rate, in the, I think, second route or something. That is true. Skarmory is broken. Broken. What is up with the flying steel type? There's nothing coming after that. There's nothing coming after that. Except for, what is it? Ice type? Like, what are you running into that has ice type moves? Yeah. So that is true. I had forgotten about that. Right. Yeah, that's yeah. So I don't know. It would be challenging early on. Um, that would be so weird for Wingull to be, like, the champion of my party early on. You know what I mean? Like, who would have thought that would be my hero? So I've thought about doing that. Um, but I need to find something that I can feel comfortable with playing on a regular basis, because I really need to get back to playing more regularly, because my workaholism has taken over again, and I really need to start to detach a little bit. So I don't want to get stuck playing a version of a game where then I feel like I need to stop. I don't need any more discouragement at this point. Yeah, we listen. I'm not. I have no doubts about Wingle. It's just funny to me thinking that it's possible that that might be basically like my starter type Pokemon. What is the Groville evolution? Trying to think. At some point, do one of the starters become flying type? I know Mudkip does not. I'm not worried about that. Yeah, that's not. That's just straight grass. What about Torchic? Nope, it's just fighting. So none of the starters would fit that purpose. So basically, I would have to drop all of the starters. Which is okay. It's doable. So I feel like 3 would be an interesting challenge. I'm not sure I want to start there though. But I'm also not trying to bore people with my consistent Gen 1 playthroughs. You know, I have an appreciation for its move diversity. Oh, is that so? You said of the oddish line. Do you have other oddish type Pokemon like tattoos? Like, is this a gradual build up? Oh, you're getting all 3. I see, I see, I see. You know what? They can be. Um, they can be very very helpful when it comes to Pokemon recruitment because of their access to all the powders. And don't get me wrong, I'm not contesting Blossom's superiority over Vileplume, but is there a particular reason why you're not getting both? Bulbasaur is broken. I had to, with the exception of an HM slave for Surf, I managed to do what is basically a solo run with Bulbasaur. I think too, it's worth keeping in mind that grass types seem to be about as helpful as what you pair them up with. So I don't know if you saw this, but at one point I did a run um, through Gen 1 with what I call the Mount Moon Challenge, where I think I had Squirtle for the purpose of Surf only, and then everything else was something you can catch from Mount Moon. So Zubat, Geodude, Clefairy, and Paris. And you would think, just in general, that that would be like hot garbage, and kind of it is sometimes. But it turns out Graveler is broken, and I didn't know that until I started running through. Um, Clefable is nice because of move diversity as well as strong normal type attacks. So it's nice to have a normal type with stab. Um, and you can switch that up and give them try attack for free. Yeah, uh, Paris is ugh, that bug poison type is just it's just asking for trouble. But out of the four, you can give it dig, and it does all right with that. Um, and you can give it cut. But Zubat, let me tell you something. Zubat is a whole lot of suck. I had really had to learn to like Zubat. Even when it evolves. Now, I mean, it's nice. Okay, Golbat I can work with from a stats perspective, but from move diversity, it's still not there. It doesn't learn any HMs. What? Like what is? And then all of the things that it can learn are super weird. I think it eventually learns a wing attack or something. I'm like, that's nice. You know what I mean? Like I don't. It's a weird Pokemon. So Paris is dangerous in a lot of contexts because of its double weaknesses to a lot of stuff. Graveler is just a tank. I actually like I had to intentionally like stop using Graveler in battle because it was gaining so much experience. I don't know what experience like uh, curve that it's on, but it gains levels very quickly. Um, and it was just broken. Um, but yeah, I never mess around with metronome though. There's a part of me that wants to one day just make that a focal point. That'll be a fun little challenge. Making myself use metronome in weird places. In my mind, I told myself that it was poison, but grass, that makes sense. It's so chaotic though. It's so random. There's no limit on which moves it can or can't use, which means it can use some really great, powerful moves that are completely irrelevant to the actual Pokemon that you're fighting. It's just, I don't know. At least like making it a rule that I can't replace it. I'm not considering to make a rule that I have to use it, but that it has to remain in my move set. And you know what's I mean, I can see myself getting stuck in a pinch. But like, oh great. Okay, you just pulled this thing out. Let's see what I can do. Like if I don't know, let's say I get locked in a fight with a fighting type or something like this, and I have nothing good to shoot back at it, which would be dumb. In that particular setting, I would at least have like a thunder type move, but that's not the point. Let's say I'm out of power points and I have nothing to heal it with or something. I don't know. At that point, like you have nothing better to do than to hit metronome and see what happens. But see, going through that cave, even can you imagine going through Mount Moon with only bug types and only flying types? I mean, I would be running from every battle. Right. And alternatively, you can buy the Magikarp right before, but there's no way you're going to get that thing to level 20 in the cave or even before the cave. That's not going to happen. Okay. Enjoy your lunch. It was good talking to you. Oh. Well, as it so happens, I need to pivot to work myself. I need to get ready for that. I need to figure out what kind of hornet's nest I'm walking into. Every day is something else. Yeah, like I said, good talking to you. And hopefully I'll be posting more this week. Yep, have a great day.